Greeting aspirants, welcome to the channel, and today I am starting this channel for the purpose of helping out those students who are having a tough time in completing their current affairs segment, specifically related to civil service examinations. So without any further delay, let's get started. The PDF that I have made today includes different important articles from different editions of the Hindu, for example Chennai edition, Bangalore edition or Delhi edition, and I have also included important article of PIB report of 3rd July. So the first article that we are going to discuss is about a climate change conference that was held in Bonn. There is World Conference Center in Bonn, Germany. This conference was held from 5th June to 15th June. It was held on the same points or same basis of the Paris Agreement, and that was to reduce the global average temperature below 1.5 degrees Celsius of the pre-industrial level. There is also a word in the article, and it was about global stocktake. So what this word means? So global stocktake means an exercise which assesses the progress of different nations in achieving its NDC. NDC means nationally determined contributions. We could also say, for India, our PM has named it Panchamrit, means 5 promises that were made to achieve. Of those 5, only 3 has been validified by the cabinet. So, and this NDCs means achieving these NDCs means getting the atmospheric temperature below 1.5 degrees Celsius of the pre-industrial level. So why 1.5 degrees Celsius? Because it is considered that 1.5 degrees Celsius is the tipping point. Means if the climate gets warmer than 1.5 degrees Celsius of the pre-industrial level, then there will be no reversing of that change. So if we have to protect the earth, and the earth inhabitants will have to get the temperature below 1.5 degrees Celsius of the pre-industrial level, which it means we have to maintain this temperature. This conference encourages greenhouse gas reduction, building resilience to climate impacts, and mobilizing resources in achieving these purposes. It is mandated under Article 14(1) of the Paris Agreement. This exercise is conducted every 5 years once, and the first one is conducted in Bonn. So there were some conclusions in this conference, and that are, for the world to get this temperature, it needs to cut 50% of its emission by 2030 from the 2019 levels. And again, there is also a term that is just transition. So it has been used quite some time recently. So we'll see the meaning of this term. It is in use because the climate change mitigation measures. It means just transition refers to the mitigation measure of the climate change. Just transition means, according to ILO, it means greening the economy in a way that is as fair and inclusive as possible to everyone concerned, creating decent work opportunities and leaving no one behind. It means the transitioning of the economy of every country from the traditional energy base to more cleaner energy base in such a way that is very much inclusive, and it creates a green job. Again, what are its significance? It ensures no one is left behind, socially or economically. Government can demonstrate the socio-economic benefits of green, because all these things cannot be achieved without the support of the public. And by demonstrating these benefits of the green economy, government can get the support, public support, to achieve these purposes. Governments should support the green job and should create an environment for the green job revolution. And it could be done by attracting the workers needed for economic transformation. Transparent planning and includes a broad range of stakeholders like workers, academicians, NGOs, etc. And it will also minimize the fear among the people about the climate. Social groundwork for a resilient net zero economy can be laid with the help of all the public support, and it could also result into the greener economy. And by doing this, the SDG goal, the Sustainable Development Goals, for example, SDG 7 refers to affordable and clean energy, and SDG 8 refers to decent work and economic growth. So the achieving just transition could result in achieving all these goals. That is SDG 7, SDG 8. It would create an environment of inclusive growth and will left no one behind socially or economically. And it will also create a greener job which will help in transitioning the economy from the traditional fuel based to the more cleaner fuel based economy. Again, there was a term climate finance, and it has been used for quite some time. So we'll see what the climate finance is. In 2009, the developed countries promised that they will be mobilizing about $100 billion every year by 2020 to help out developing countries and other underdeveloped and those countries who are not very much financially strong to get their economy transitioned from the traditional fuel based to more cleaner energy fuel based. But there was a report article in The Hindu only, I think 4 or 5 days back, that reported that this $100 billion was never achieved, and it was only $80 billion each year. And if it is adjusted to the inflation and other things, it could be much lower than that. So the developed countries, which must be responsible for what they have contributed in the global warming, they should take up the responsibility and help out the weaker economy to get this transition, but they are not keeping their promises. So there has been an issue of this climate financing. We can see that Donald Trump withdrawing from the Paris Agreement, which mandated this finance. So there has been issue of contention between the developed and developing countries about the financing, and overall it has been not fulfilled by the developed countries. So for quite some time there has been discussion towards another way of financing the weaker economies, and this topic was also discussed in Bonn Conference. The Environmental Integrity Group suggested that the mitigation work program should contribute to financing deviating from major international public finance transfers. And also the World Bank was also integrated in this aspect, so that it could be held responsible for investment in the fossil fuel. So the pursuit of the global stake should comply with the principles of equity, justice and fairness, so that each and every person and each and every nation gets the inclusive growth, and this growth or this climate resilience or the climate mitigation measures would not be burden on them. So this was the crux of this article. Let's move to the new article. It is about North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So 2 or 3 days back, NATO plus 5 was in news, and again it has made in news. NATO and NATO plus 5. So we'll see what is NATO and what is NATO plus 5. What could be the advantages if India joins NATO plus 5, and what would be the disadvantages of this on joining NATO plus 5. So it is very much important from pre as well as mains point of view. So the NATO or North Atlantic Treaty Organization is transatlantic alliance. There are 31 like-minded North American and European countries in this group. And recently the one country joined NATO is Finland, the 31st country. It was created in 1949 for the purpose of hindering Soviet expansionism and to forbid the revival of nationalist militarism in Europe. And it would be done through a strong North American presence on the continent. And it was also instituted for the purpose of encouraging European political integration that resulted in European Union. It aims to provide collective security against the Soviet Union. It constitutes a system of collective defense to respond to and counter an attack by a non-NATO member. There is an article in not NATO Constitution, that is Article 5, that refers that if any of the NATO member is under attack militarily, so the whole NATO members will respond the same way for the protection of that NATO member. And this article was only revoked during the Iraq war when America invaded Iraq, and therefore UK followed the America. So, but this Article 5 is not every time invoked. It is invoked if diplomatic efforts fail and the military power has to undertake crisis management operations. Then comes the NATO Plus. NATO Plus is also a security arrangement to boost defense and intelligence ties among the America and its friendly nations. In NATO plus 5, there are NATO and other 5 members: Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Israel, and South Korea. So these 5 plus the original 31 from NATO, this grouping is called NATO plus 5. So India is invited to join the NATO plus grouping, but recently our foreign minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar, refused the invitation on joining the NATO plus. So we'll see what could be the advantages and what could be the disadvantages on joining NATO. Of course, India follows multi-alignment, which is a hybrid model of non-alignment. So the focus of NATO plus is containing China. NATO was instituted for containing Russia, and NATO plus is constituted for containing China. It means there is shift in the priority from Russia to China. What could be the advantages for India in joining the group? It could be gaining access to advanced military technologies, intelligence sharing platforms, interoperability with other member states, which could provide security umbrella and deterrence against any potential threats. And now we'll see why India rejected and what could be the disadvantages. Reasons for why India rejected is it faced difficulty in balancing strategic partnership and managing potential geopolitical consequences. We all are witnessing the growth of relation between India and USA, but India has a very historical and important tie with its counterpart, or we could say its enemy in another world, that is Russia. So India has to maintain a neutral stance for both the countries. So if India joins NATO plus grouping, which is a military grouping and a security grouping, so it could not take the stance on the multi-alignment. So it could be counterproductive and detrimental. It could also hinder India's freedom of action, as it can limit the India's alignment to other countries. And it could also hinder India's independent policy towards China. India has so far maintained an independent policy towards China, and once, once on a visit to USA, the question was asked on China, and the S. Jaishankar replied that India would solely determine what to do with the China. So, if India is to carry those policies, it has to not join the military grouping. Otherwise, it would also require India to align its defense and security policies with objective and strategies of alliance, and there would be conflict of interest. The divert of resources will take place, and the pressing issues which is in India right now can be avoided. So these are some points which we had to discuss in this article. Let's move to another article, and it is based on a very prolonged legal battle between the LG and the Delhi government. So, Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Act and validity of the ordinance will see its background. The topic of our discussion will be this: what does GNCTD Act tells, and what is the validity of the ordinance of a president. So, after the Supreme Court handed over the bureaucratic control of different bureaucrats or civil services in Delhi to Delhi government, President of India passed an ordinance that nullified the Supreme Court's decision. So there is a question that can an ordinance really nullify the justice that has been delivered, or can nullify the Supreme Court's decision? The President's order amending the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Act 1991, it removed some services from the Delhi government's purview. The Supreme Court had already restored those services to Delhi government in a landmark decision, and the ordinance invalidates the Supreme Court's decision. On which basis the Supreme Court delivered its decision? The basis was that paralysis of government would be resulted from lack of authority over an administration's personnel. And Supreme Court also reminded that what could have been the objective of the Constitution's framers when they incorporated Article 239AA. So Supreme Court's saying was that the Constitution's framer did not wanted a crippled government in National Capital Territory. And if the government doesn't have control over the administrative personnel, that government is can be termed as a crippled government, or this could result in the paralysis of that particular state government. And this must not have been the objective of the Constitution's framer. What was the case? The case was that whether officers allocated to Delhi come under the administrative control of Delhi government or comes under the administrative control of Delhi's Lieutenant Governor. So and again there are also challenge on the amendment that was made on constitutional validity to the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Act 2021. So there were 3 points, and in that case, 2 points. First was whether the officers come under the Delhi government's purview or Delhi LG's purview. And again, the constitutional basis of GNCTD Amendment Act 2021 was also challenged in Supreme Court. Now we'll see what is the validity of the ordinance that was recently passed. The Delhi ordinance that overturned the court's ruling poses a severe legal and constitutional concerns. How? The first concern is whether the court's ruling can be overturned by President issuing an ordinance or a bill approved by the Parliament. So the question is, can a Parliament by any legislation or can a President by any ordinance overturn the ruling of Supreme Court? Many times Supreme Court has ruled that as Parliament lacks judicial authority, it has legislative responsibilities, but it doesn't have the judicial authority. It cannot overturn the court's ruling without altering the decision's foundation. This is important. Altering the decision's foundation. So on which basis Supreme Court gave its landmark judgment on the civil services control? So if we will see the ordinance, there is no altering of the decision's foundation. Supreme Court gave its decision on the basis of paralyzing of the government due to lack of authority over the bureaucrats. And the ordinance, rather than changing the current setup, it was made to nullify the decision of Supreme Court. So there was no change in the decision's foundation. Again, the ordinance does not provide any justification for overturning the court's ruling. What are the constitutional basis on which Supreme Court gave its decision? And that is Article 239AA of the Constitution. Supreme Court used this 239AA of the Constitution in making its decision to place the services under the control of Delhi Assembly and the government. But there is no constitutional basis of the ordinance on which basis the ordinance is passed to nullify the court's ruling, and it has also not given any justification. Again, there are issues in ordinance, that is overriding the chief minister, and it is a very serious concern that can a bureaucrat overturn a popular and elected government's decision. The National Capital Civil Services Authority, which consists of a chairman and now 2 other members, is also included in that by the ordinance. And this authority, National Capital Civil Services Authority, is responsible for posting, transfer and disciplinary actions against civil service officers and other bureaucrats. And the two members that are included in this authority is the Chief Secretary and the Home Secretary. And the Chief Minister will be the chairman of this Civil Service Authority. Now, as the decision will be made on majority basis, the Chief Secretary and the Home Secretary will do its bidding of the central government by whom they are appointed. So, in a way we can say that in this authority, that is National Capital Civil Services Authority, there is no place for Chief Minister's opinion. And again, after passing all the views regarding the transfer and disciplinary actions against bureaucrats, the decision will be sent to Lieutenant Governor, and after that he will give his consent and his or her choice will be final. Other key provisions in the ordinance are: that there is another peculiar feature in this ordinance, and that is, if the Secretary of the Council of Ministers believes that a cabinet decision is not in compliance with law or rules of procedure, he may bring it to the Lieutenant Governor for his decision. It means we can say that a secretary effectively has authority to reverse a cabinet's decision. Just if secretary have any other opinion, which he will have, because he will be doing the bidding of another party, he just have to have another view, and he will be bringing this to the Lieutenant Governor, and the Lieutenant Governor's decision will be final. So we can say that a secretary to the Council of Ministers can overturn the decision of the Council of Ministers. He just have to have a different view. Again, another clause that was established was for calling special assembly session. So now currently in every state, Chief Minister advises the governor to summon the assembly, and this is how the setup is. But there is another clause introduced in this ordinance, and that is the opinion of both the Lieutenant Governor and the Chief Minister is important. It means the Lieutenant Governor is not or will be not binded by the advice of the Chief Minister, because independently their both opinion will be important. So this is a very much difference from the what current constitutional setup regarding summoning of a parliamentary session is, and what is going to be introduced in Delhi. Again, here is some highlighted points that will see what is there in Constitution of India under Article 239AA, and how this whole ordinance is not having any constitutional basis. So the Article 239A clause 7 envisages that Parliament may by law make provisions for giving effect to or supplementing the provisions contained in the foregoing clauses, and for all matters incidental or consequential thereto. Here is supplementing. Supplementing word is important. Supplementing means to add or to enhance, it could also mean. But the ordinance is not supplementing anything, rather it is taking away the authority of the Delhi government. So this ordinance can be termed as not having so much constitutional basis. So this was the crux of this article. Let's move to the new one. This article that we just discussed is very much important from both pre and mains point of view. The next article is from economy, and there was an article about greedflation in the Hindu. So we have heard different words ending in inflation. For example, inflation, shrinkflation, stagflation, and there is another one, and it is greedflation. So it is nothing different than its name suggests. Greedflation refers to the increment in prices or the high inflation due to the greed of corporates. So first we will see what is inflation. Inflation refers to general rise in price level, but it is not a very much narrow basis. Inflation is referred only when the inflation or the price rises is noticed on much broader scope. So widespread increase in price of goods and services across the broader economy is referred as inflation. It means rising in the price of one commodity could not be termed as inflation. inflation does not account for the prices of individual goods and services. So we'll see what is the reason for the price rise in USA and why there are different opinions, and many economists are not terming it as greedflation or inflation. So the first point they are mentioning is that it did not cause any widespread inflation. So considering is a result of inflation or inflation is not very much correct. So what is the reason for the price rise? They are saying the price rise in US is due to the Federal Reserve's expansionary monetary policy that it followed. US Fed followed after the or during the COVID-19 pandemic. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, Federal Reserve, US Federal Reserve provided lot of money to its citizens, and by providing those monies, yani by following the expansionary monetary policy, the citizens got more money or the consumers got more money, and therefore their capability of investment increased, and this could lead to the price rise in USA. It was because there was more demand because the people had more money and they were willing to pay more for any commodity, and which led to inflation. We can also see that US money supply has risen to about 40% during pandemic. So the supply of so much money in the market and so much money in the consumer's hand increased the investment capability of the consumers, and by that it made consumers willing to pay much more money for any particular commodity, and this led to the inflation. How did the US companies get huge profits during COVID pandemic? It is the question. If it is not the greedflation, then how the US companies got or made huge profits during COVID pandemic? It was due to fall down of smaller businesses during pandemic, and this resulted as advantageous scenario for the large US corporations, which benefited from the fall down of the smaller businesses. They overtook the market that was established by small businesses, and this led to the huge profit by the corporates in the US economy. And there is again one reason behind the price rise, and that is related to the high cost of input. So increase in the cost of input due to supply chain bottlenecks during COVID-19 could also be the reason of inflation in the US economy. Now let's move to another article, and it is related to social justice. Recently, a scheme for the care and support of minor rape victims was introduced by Ministry of Women and Child Development. And this scheme was introduced to help out those minor rape victims who are abandoned or orphaned due to the social stigma. The initial fund allocation is 74.1 crores, and it is under Nirbhaya Fund. The support will be provided until the age of 23, and the victims do not need to bring their FIR copy in order to avail the benefits. The benefits could be received from the child care institutions of every district. The benefits that will be provided through this scheme is maternity care, neonatal and infant care, psychological counseling, legal support, shelter, food and daily needs, safe transportation for attending court hearings, insurance cover monthly assistance of rupees 4,000. And this scheme also the part of Mission Vatsalya, which is an umbrella scheme for child protection and services. As through this scheme or through the Nirvaya fund, the fund will be given for the maternity care and neonatal and infant care, means as a child support. So Mission Vatsalya also provide different schemes for the child protection. So we could say it is a part of Mission Vatsalya also. So it is an umbrella scheme for child protection services. In this mission, there is a scheme called Integrated Child Protection Scheme. What is the need of this? The need of this is that children are considered as the supreme national assets. Currently, 39% of the population of India is children. What is the objective of this? To secure a healthy and happy childhood, foster sensitive, supportive and synchronized ecosystem, assist states UTs regarding Juvenile Justice Act 2015, and achieve the SDG goals especially related to the children. The components in this scheme will be a statutory body, there will be a service delivery structure to provide the services, institutional care and services, non-institutional community-based care, emergency outreach services, training and capacity building to enhance the skill of the children. So this was the crux of this article, that was about this scheme which is for the minor rape victims who are orphaned or abandoned. Article, and that is related to technology. It is about a mobile app launch which is made in order to help out self-help groups. The app is named eSaras app. It will be managed by the Foundation for Development of Rural Value Chains, means FDRVC, which is a not-profit company constituted jointly by the Ministry of Rural Development and the Tata Trust. The center will be used for processing, packaging and shipping products that customer purchase through eSaras portal. And it will also handle the logistics required to bring an online order to customer's doorstep. So the next article is regarding a dispute over river Kaveri and the dam constructed over its tributaries. और ये जो dispute है, it is between Karnataka and the Tamil Nadu government. So in the light of this article, we'll first see some points regarding river Kaveri. River Kaveri originates from Brahmagiri range in Western Ghats in Kurg district of Karnataka. The tributaries of river Kaveri which are in Karnataka are Harangi, Hemavati, Simsa, Arkavati, Lakshman Tirtha and Swarnavati. The Kavini river, which flows from Kerala to Karnataka and joins Kaveri, is also a tributary of Kaveri originating from Kerala. तमिलनाडु में जो इसके tributaries हैं, those are Bhavani, Amravati and Noel. If we consider the geography of Kaveri river, जो upper hilly catchment area है, it lies in Karnataka and Kerala, और जो lower part है, यानी lower catchment area, that lies in the plains of Tamil Nadu, and it meets at Hogankill Falls. अब disputes की timeline को जान लेते हैं. 1892 और 1924 में परमानेंट इंटरस्टेट एग्रीमेंट्स दोनों स्टेट्स ने साइन किए, लेकिन ये एग्रीमेंट्स डिस्प्यूट को खत्म नहीं कर पाया. बाद में कर्नाटका ने it constructed 4 new dams across Harangi, Kabini, Hemavati and Swarnavati. इसके खिलाफ 1969 में तमिलनाडु appealed to the then PM to adjudicate the dispute. 1990 में सेंटर ने एक कावेरी वाटर डिस्प्यूट ट्रिब्यूनल स्टैब्लिश की and it was established under the Interstate River Water Disputes Act 1956. उसका पर्पस था टू एडजुडिकेट द वाटर डिस्प्यूट अमंग कर्नाटका, केरला, तमिलनाडु एंड यूनियन टेरिटरी ऑफ पुडुचेरी. In 2007, tribunal's report was challenged in Supreme Court as the Tamil Nadu and Karnataka government were not satisfied by the tribunal's award. Supreme Court has original jurisdiction on interstate disputes. In 2018, Supreme Court directed the Centre to frame a scheme to implement the modified tribunal award. जून 2018 में सेंटर ने कावेरी वाटर मैनेजमेंट स्कीम नोटिफाई किया और इस स्कीम के अंदर सेंटर कंस्टिट्यूटेड ऑफ कावेरी वाटर मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटी एंड कावेरी वाटर रेगुलेशन कमेटी. लेकिन जो सबसे ज्यादा जो जिस प्रोजेक्ट ने डिस्प्यूट क्रिएट किया दैट इज मेकेदातु प्रोजेक्ट which aims to construct a balancing reservoir across कावेरी. इसका ऑब्जेक्टिव था टू यूटिलाइज एडिशनल 4.75 thousand million cubic feet of water to provide drinking water facility to Bengaluru metropolitan region. And it also aimed to regulate the required quantum of water to Tamil Nadu based on the modified tribunal's report. Again, it's also its objective was to store the flood waters that may escape into the sea and to harness 400 megawatt of renewable energy in a year. लेकिन जो मॉडिफाइड ट्रिब्यूनल का रिपोर्ट था उसके अकॉर्डिंग जो शेयर मिलने वाले थे अलग अलग स्टेट्स को, तमिलनाडु ऐसा क्लेम करता है कि इट इज नॉट गेटिंग दैट, एंड वन ऑफ द रीजन ऑफ दैट इज these dams which are being constructed by Karnataka government. So this was the crux of this article. Let's move to the another one. It is regarding some institutions, और ये जितने भी institutions हैं, I have collected this information from the PIB report of 3rd July. 3rd July के PIB रिपोर्ट में उतना कुछ खास नहीं था, तो इसलिए मैंने जो जो institutions important लगा मुझे, I have included all those institutions. Recently, South Asia Regional Anti-Doping Organization and National Anti-Doping Agency has signed a memorandum of understanding. और उसी के रिगार्डिंग ये दोनों एजेंसी जो हैं न्यूज में थे, तो इसके बारे में हम लोग इन दोनों एजेंसीज के बारे में कुछ जान लेते हैं. सार्डो, दैट इज साउथ एशिया रीजनल एंटी डोपिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. इट कंप्राइजेस द एंटी डोपिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ बांग्लादेश, भूटान, मालदीव्स, नेपाल एंड श्रीलंका. इट वाज फॉर्म्ड इन 2007 एट साउथ एशियन एंटी डोपिंग प्रोग्राम प्रोजेक्ट. इट्स मीटिंग वाज हेल्ड इन मालदीव्स. पार्टिसिपेटिंग कंट्रीज जो थे इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए और इस इनिशिएटिव के लिए एग्रीड हुए क्योंकि इट वाज द बेनिफिट ऑफ साउथ एशिया, और ये बहुत ही फिजिकली रिस्पॉन्सिबल सोल्यूशन था फॉर द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ एंटी डोपिंग कोड इन साउथ एशिया रीजन एंड इन दिस कंट्रीज बांग्लादेश, भूटान, मालदीव्स एंड नेपाल एंड श्रीलंका. सो इंडिया में जो एंटी डोपिंग एजेंसी है दैट इज नेशनल एंटी डोपिंग एजेंसी. It was set up as a registered society under the Societies Registration Act of 1860 on November 24, 2005. और इसका जो मैंडेट और ऑब्जेक्टिव है that is drop free sports in India. The primary objective are to implement anti-doping rules as per the World Anti-Doping Agency Code and to regulate dope control programs, promote education and research, and create awareness about doping and its ill effects. Next is the Bharat 6G Alliance. It is a collaborative platform consisting of public and private companies, academia, research institutions, and standard development organizations. तो ये जो अलायंस है भारत 6G अलायंस, ये ग्लोबल जितने भी प्लेयर्स हैं इन द टेलीकॉम फील्ड, इट कैन बी पब्लिक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव, प्राइवेट कंपनीज, एकेडेमिया या फिर रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूशंस, उनको एक साथ एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे लाती है. इसका जो ऑब्जेक्टिव है दैट इज टू फोर्स कोलिशन एंड सिनर्जीज with other 6G global alliances to foster international collaboration and knowledge exchange. One of the primary objectives is to understand the business and societal needs of 6G beyond technology requirements. तो केवल 6G का implementation या फिर 6G का use टेक्नोलॉजी रिक्वायरमेंट तक ही नहीं रखना है, बल्कि इस अलायंस का ये भी मकसद है कि उससे आगे बढ़कर के कैसे इस सोसाइटी को 6G इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकता है उसको भी समझने की ये एक प्लेटफॉर्म है. एंड इट ऑल्सो प्रोवाइड्स और फॉस्टर्स कंसेंसस ऑफ दिस नीड्स एंड प्रमोट हाई इम्पैक्ट ओपन रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट इनिशिएटिव्स. और इसी टेलीकॉम सेक्टर से रिलेटेड एक फंड है दैट इज टेलीकॉम टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलपमेंट फंड. ये फंड जो है इसका इस्तेमाल गवर्नमेंट जो है वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बिल्ड करने के लिए या फिर जितने भी अदर प्लेयर्स हैं उनको सपोर्ट करने के लिए इस फंड का यूज किया जाता है. द TTDF scheme was launched by Department of Technology and Universal Service Obligation Fund in 2022. It aims to help build a state-of-the-art technologies and enable the proliferation of affordable broadband and mobile services in rural and remote area. तो अलग अलग जितने भी प्लेयर्स हैं उनके इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को बिल्ड करना, उनको हेल्प करना ताकि ज़्यादा रूरल पेनिट्रेशन हो सके या फिर रिमोट एरियाज में जो टेलीकॉम सेक्टर का जो रीच है वो ज़्यादा पहुंच सके. The scheme is envisaged to bridge the digital divide by developing and manufacturing state-of-the-art technologies and especially indigenous technologies. The TTDF scheme entails grants to Indian entities to increase and induct indigenous technologies tailor-made to meet domestic needs. The TTDF is targeting to develop standards to meet country-wide requirements and create the ecosystem for research, design, prototyping, use cases, pilots, and proof of concept testing, among others. So these are the objectives of TTDF, and one of the primary objectives is to help out the different players so that the telecom reach could be more penetrative into the remote areas and rural areas, and also to build indigenous and state-of-the-art ecosystem or indigenous technologies to help out or to reach out to remote areas. So this was it in this article. I hope ये हेल्पफुल रहा होगा आपके लिए. और इस PDF का जो लिंक है that will be in description section और वहाँ से आप इसको डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं. थैंक यू.